Good evening, everybody! Welcome to the debut broadcast for International Simracing Organization. A very momentous occasion. We're glad to have you with us. Tonight, we have a fun race on the docket for you, the 1971 Race of Champions. Qualifying session is just concluding. And I am joined in the booth by Alberto Ibañez and Pascal Mikula. Gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Jason. Good evening, everybody. We're pleased to be here for this very special occasion.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, this is the launching of International Simracing Organization's YouTube channel and our broadcast effort. Those of you who are watching live on YouTube, we're really happy to have you with us. ISO has been around for a while as a sister league to the historic Simracing organization, but it is becoming its own separate entity going forward. Where are we right now in the qualifying session? The qualifying's complete, I assume.
There's still about 40
seconds to go.
Oh, still 40 seconds to go. Well, while we are waiting for that to be completed, we can talk about what the league is going to have on tap for people coming up in 2020. We already have it published on our forum, but I'll run through each of these series, and if you two want to chime in on these, you're welcome to. First of all, and I'm biased, of course, but I think this is fantastic, 1974 USAC Championship cars. A 13-race season, open-wheel, winged monocoques with 2,600cc turbocharged engines, approximately 800 horsepower apiece. And these will be oval circuits only unless you count Trenton as a road course. I know that Alberto and I are really thrilled about this. Any comments about this series coming up, gentlemen?
Well, I'm very much looking forward about it because we've put so much work on it, and this was the natural evolution of the 1973 mod. That's what got us started, and those were really powerful cars back then. But somehow you and me already talked about it while developing the mod. These cars look they do somehow make some more sense. They are really nice cars. They are very well balanced, even if they are very powerful. They are not the crazy 1,200 horsepower plus engines of the year before, but I think that the racing is great with them. We will be seeing a very competitive series in the very different tracks that the USAC used to race back then. Even if they are all ovals, they are so different. Small, big, huge speeds, smaller speeds. It's going to be really fun and very, very competitive because unlike in 73, the cars are well matched and very much close together.
Given the fact that the 73 mod is what actually got me into this whole league stuff with the sim racing, I'm also very much looking forward to the 74 to see how far all of this has come. Especially now that we've run the 73 in R Factor. We're running 74 in Automobilista, so I'm looking forward to it.
We're still ironing that out. We're not entirely certain if we're going to pull the trigger on AMS for 74, but stay tuned. We will. I'm sure that we'll have an announcement on that sooner or later. Next series is 1991 Formula One, which is something everyone always likes to run. 16 races, open wheel winged monocoques with 3,500 cc's of normally aspirated power, around 600 to 700 horsepower, and these are road circuits and street circuits. 91 was a year that I think everybody really remembers as a big one.
It was, yes. It was certainly, watching Ayrton Senna fight for the title with that, not handicap, but with that McLaren that was a bit out of the pace was really amazing. I mean, and the Formula One in the 90s is actually when it started to become what it has really become as of today, or in the more modern times, because, if you discard the hybrid era, so to speak, the peak of that technology came with the V10s that were awesome cars to drive. And this is where it all started. I mean, they ditched the famous turbos from the 80s, where everything had gone too wide, probably. And everything started to go definitely in the way of super absolutely high technology, carbon fiber, Kevlar, and all that stuff. The engines were very professional. They were all toying with dynamic suspensions and all the thing that got banned later, but the cars were really, really, really fast.
Yeah, I remember someone characterizing this era like we like to think of Formula One in terms of the ground effects era, the turbo era. I think this is probably you could probably call this the automatic era, where a lot of it was the active suspension, things of that nature that was starting to come into play. But a lot of things were happening. There was the introduction of the Jordan team. Ferrari was in descendants at this point, and it was really the first real point where Williams and McLaren were on equal footing, where there was an actual chance that that Mansell could win the title. But it was just like he was just undone by too many problems that year, and then he got it done the following year.
It was, yes. Mansell was always haunted by the bad luck. He's the usual guy whom everybody says about he should have way many more titles under his belt.
Well, it worked in his favor, though, because he liked the showbiz. And, if you have ups and downs, it's good for that. And then the third series that we're going to run in 2020 that we've announced so far, 1997 Super Touring Australia edition. This will be 8 races plus the non-championship Bathurst event, a race that I know we all like to do as a group, with people switching out cars. That's always a lot of fun to do. 4-door saloons, 2,000 cc, normally aspirated, approximately 300 horsepower, and this will be on road circuits, maybe some street circuits mixed in. I'm not as familiar with this as I am with other forms of racing, but I know that a lot of people that have raced with us at other leagues in the past are really excited about touring cars. They really enjoy tin tops, as they say. So I'm sure we're going to get a lot of interest in this.
It's a very competitive series because the cars are very evenly matched. And we have already seen in the Wednesday series that we are running already with the same mod in HSO that people are really, really enjoying these races. And in the format that they are currently run with 2 heats in the Super Touring wagon, it was great, but we'll see in Australia different formats, and it's really, really interesting to watch these cars because they were very quick. They were not very powerful, but they were at the peak of the technology, and they had a huge speed going through the turns. And then when you couple that with very interesting Australian tracks, I must say, because they are not as known for the European public, but they are really great. You have some really scenic landscapes around, some interesting venues with the layouts that are so different from everything that is here in Europe. And then you have, of course, Bathurst. I mean, that's a mountain to climb, as we say.
Mount Panorama, an amazing circuit unlike any other. Just incredible. All right. Well, let's take a look now at what's going on the track. I'll bring up the track volume. And we got cars going around the circuit right now. We're watching Brian Janik, the Detroit Demon. That's the nickname that I'm giving him from here on out. I hope he likes it. And he's driving a March 711. Actually, we can ride on board with him here and see the circuit from his point of view. He heads into clearways now, downhill into the start-finish area. And this will be the start of the lap. This is the Grand Prix course at Brands Hatch. This course, this particular part of the circuit right here, going downhill into Paddock Bend, always screws me up.
Yeah, it's so different. It's so difficult to do that turn because there's absolutely no visibility. I mean, picture yourself jumping out of the balcony without even knowing what's behind, and that's exactly the feeling that you get when you are driving through there.
All right, so he's on the backside, but sorry, we will go for one more lap here because we took a second to switch over to the live picture. I'm sure that Brian will grant us one more lap here, but he's going on the backside of the course now.
And this part is crucial. You got to brake very hard and still catch the corner. With those cars, it's incredibly difficult to just lose it on entry or in the middle of the corner. You got to really have, you got to have the feeling in your fingertips.
Here's the
Like
track
that.
map for those of you who are interested. 4.265 kilometers around. We'll be going for 50 laps this evening. This is not a full-length Grand Prix. This was a race that was done in addition to a Grand Prix schedule in 1971. So here comes Brian off the corner now. Let's take a full proper lap with him. Crosses the start-finish line. And here comes Pat at bend. You see how much of the track is blind to him. Turning right, heading downhill. Very easy to go off into the kitty litter on the left there. Downshifting now for Druid's Bend. Sweeping back to the right now. People have different ways of taking that corner. If you're clever about it, you can set yourself up for the next series of left-handers as you go down here back behind the pits. Oh, he's got lots of opposite lock there as he's applying the power. Remember, these cars don't have ground effects. It's mechanical grip and what little downforce they're getting from the wings. Now a left-hander that takes him onto the backside of the course. This is the portion that is the Grand Prix course apart from the Indy section. Downhill, then uphill, downshifting, turning right. He's got another fast right-hander coming up here. You can see he's having to slither his way through there. He's not, doesn't have quite the grip that I think he'd prefer. And now a left-hander that'll take him back towards the main pit complex. Out of the forest and into clear ways. You can see there the Indy circuit joining him on the right. Applying the power now as he comes down the straight. You see the grid slots flashing by, and that is one lap complete of... Oh, and here comes Pascal out on the track. This will be interesting.
Yeah.
Let's
And
see.
we have been talking about Brian Janik and his car, and we have been watching all the cars, but we have here one of the oddities that have existed in Formula One, and that's the car that Pascal is driving right now.
Oh, look out, Pascal! Oh, no, no! Oh, shoot! Mike Olson spinning out right in front of you, but okay, Pascal avoids any damage and keeps going. Now, this is the Turbine car, the Lotus 53, I believe, right?
56B it's
Oh,
called,
56,
actually.
thank you, 56B, and it is powered by a Pratt & Whitney turbine engine. So,
Yes,
Pascal, tell us what it's like to drive this very, very odd car around Brands Hatch.
I have some choice words to say about this car, which I'm not going to say on
Yes,
air.
let's keep it a family broadcast.
Yes.
Let
it's
me
fun
give
to drive.
first,
That's what I
Pascal,
can
let
tell
me
you.
give first a very short description of the car, because this is, everybody knows that Colin Chapman was an absolute genius, and they tend to think of him because of all the great ideas that he brought to the Formula One, but people usually don't realize that many of his pet ideas didn't work at all. He just tried many of them, and this car was one of them. I mean, he had the weird idea of doing these Formula One cars, because the rules were back then free enough, that has all-wheel drive. I mean, the four wheels are the same size. If you look at them close, you will notice that, compared with the other cars. And yes, the engine was a Pratt & Whitney turbine coming from a helicopter, no other than from a helicopter. So it's a very powerful car. It has somehow lots of grip with the all-wheel drive in terms of traction, but, and here comes the big but, it has no gearbox. I mean, it has completely locked in his transmission. There is nothing like upshifting, short shifting, or anything like that, and the brakes are woefully inadequate for the power and the speeds that this thing can reach. So Pascal, now, sorry to have interrupted you, but now you can describe to us what it's driving that kind of thing that I just described.
Oh, yeah. Wait a second, gotta go through this corner here. Yeah, you're right. It has all-wheel drive, and on paper, it's amazing. On paper, it's amazing. You got a lot of torque. You got this turbine winding behind you. You got all-wheel drive. You know, you got like 1,000 foot-pound of torque at really low RPM, obviously. But when you drive it, it's just the all-wheel drive is more. Oh god. Okay, gotcha,
You
gotcha.
went into a bit of a lazy slide there, Pascal. Is that
I caught it.
Yeah, you caught it, but what I'm saying is that's probably indicative of the kind of difficulty that you have with this car, correct?
You can't floor it when you're coming out of the corner.
Yeah, exactly.
Because then, look, I'm flooring it right now. It's got open diffs. It's got open diffs, so if you have one wheel that has slightly less grip than the other three, it's just going to spin that wheel and you're not going any faster. You know, on paper it's amazing. On paper it's like perfect, but when you drive it, you have one gear that is really, really long, so you can't really use all the revs you have with this turbine. The all-wheel drive means that you have basically constant understeer if you manipulate the throttle in the wrong way. And yeah, Alberto, you already mentioned the brakes. It's just, you know, you have to call tower at 1 to 1.3 and request permission to brake, if you know what I mean.
I like that. No, I like Alberto's point that he made earlier that, you know, as much of a genius as Colin Chapman was, not all of his ideas were good ones, and I think this is a perfect illustration of it. Even Picasso passed off a few stinkers here and there. So
We should say though that this turbine car wasn't debuted in Formula One. This kind of very weird engine has already a history. And I mean, it was used no other way than in Indianapolis.
Indianapolis 500, yes.
It was Andy Granatelli who committed to Colin Chapman, who requested for him that he design something like this. So the first of these cars debuted in IndyCar, and it was almost victorious at Indianapolis. But that's another story. We can tell it another day. But the thing is that Colin Chapman retained the idea, and then he tried to put it into practice here in Formula One. Though obviously the results were not what he expected.
We were talking.
Sorry.
I just wanted to point out that before we went on the broadcast, we pointed out that it makes sense to run a car like this at, say, Monza or someplace high speed, but this track, it just seems really strange to me that they would choose to run it here.
I think they were basically trying to debug the car. They were trying to test it and see how it ran and all that. And when this car, the only place where it really did shine a bit was in the races where there was wet weather, because in that case the all-wheel drive did give it a bit more of an advantage. It was also seriously overweight.
Not to mention being thirstiest. I mean, I don't know the consumption of the Cosworth cars, but I'm roaming around, I don't know, 3.5 to 4 miles per gallon in this thing.
Well,
So
we'll be watching your progress in the race with great interest, Pascal. Before we start the race, we got a couple minutes to go. We also have a trivia question for you to ponder during the race. We'll give you the answer later on. The trivia question is, and this is about the actual Race of Champions, who recorded the fastest lap in the 1971 Race of Champions? Was it A, Denny Hulme, B, Emerson Fittipaldi, or C, Graham Hill? We'll reveal the answer to this question later on in the broadcast. So, seeing as this is an open race, I mean, this is, people are basically driving these as if everything's a one-off. Any predictions of who will do well in this race, gentlemen?
Grant Riddle was really having the championship in the back with the very same car when we ran it some years ago. So I would say that he is the clear favorite as of now. But then again, there's David Jacks, who is the steadiest of all the drivers here, and Thiago, who a bit more irregular, but sometimes can pull absolutely brilliant and crazy performances, like we saw, for example, at the Meadowlands, where he got speed that was unbelievable for the car and the track. So I would put my money on Grant, but I know that he has lately a tendency to sometimes get lose a bit of focus or concentration and then make small errors. So probably David Jacks, if I had to have a second bet, would be the one that I would put my money on.
There's David in the garage right now, and he's driving a Surtees, I believe, with the blue windscreen. So we got 30 seconds to go, and then we'll be going to the race session. We've got a full grid today, I believe. 19 cars. So it should be a lot of fun. One more time, here's the track map for everybody. I always thought this circuit looked like a deformed coat hook. But in any case, that's Brands Hatch. It's funny, the other portion of the circuit that you do occasionally is just the Indy bit, and you'd think that would be a little easier since it's half the circuit, but that's like, that's really a difficult portion too.
No, because they actually pick the most difficult part of the whole track, so you have the difficulty of Brands Hatch and none of the relief of the backstretch.
Yep. All right, so we're going to be going to the race session momentarily, and we'll go through the grid. This is a 50-lap race. There's that siren. And Grant Riddall is indeed on the pole in his Surtees. So, and I just heard the turbine firing up in Pascal's car. So Pascal's ready for takeoff. There it is again. Grant, as usual, is taking his sweet time getting on the grid.
Yeah, he doesn't want his engine to overheat. That's the reason why people are joining a bit late to the grid when the clock is nearly at the end of the countdown.
All right, so once they start rolling, we will give you the grid. Again, this is a fun race. There is no championship on the line. This is just a one-off event. The actual championships for ISO will start in the new year. And we're off on the parade lap. On the pole, Grant Riddall in Team Surtees, car number 27. Second place, Thiago Canola in Frank Williams Racing Car's Motul entry. In third, we have David Jakes, another Team Surtees entry. Fourth, we have Ray Riddall in the first of the Scuderia Ferrari entries. Fifth, Brian Janik from Detroit, CMG Racing. Sixth, Jason Whitehead in the first of the Tyrrells. Seventh, we have David Saber in a Lotus 72. Eighth is Juha Boss, another Scuderia Ferrari entry. Ninth, Little Al, driving a McLaren. 10th, Jan Prusa, Brabham Racing Organization. That is a Brabham BT33. And right behind him is Mick Chapman in the state-of-the-art Brabham at this point, the Lobster Claw BT34. 12th, Gerard Rion, another Team Lotus car. And then 13th is Pascal Mikula, driving the Turbine Lotus. Good luck to you, Pascal.
Thank you.
Dave Miller is starting 14th in his McLaren. 15th, Bruno Chacon driving another Tyrrell. 16th is David Yunt for Owen Racing Organization. That's BRM. 17th, Mike Olson driving a Curie Bonnier, which I believe is a McLaren M7C. And that is the grid. So 17 cars.
Well, considering the Brands Hatch is actually a rather small circuit, this is going to be a tightly packed race. We shouldn't be seeing lots of gaps here. And the rear race was actually realistic recreation of things. So here they are, giving the last burnouts to the cars. Look at Grant, he has already left his car well angled toward the left, so that he can go for the exterior of the track and pick the with as much width as possible.
All right, stand by. The race is underway. Look at that. Fighting the car.
Start for Thiago Grant, but lots of power slide there.
Oh, side by side going into paddock. There's contact. Grant Riddall is in the lead, but look who's coming up to challenge. It's David Jakes. There's Thiago Canola heading into Druids Bend. Fantastic stuff right away. But yeah, Jakes is up to second, so it's Surtees 1-2 right out of the gate. Canola is in third. It appears that Janik is in fourth. Yes, Janik is in 4th place, and we have one of the Ferraris in 5th, I believe. It is Ray Radal. Juha Boss is right behind Ray in the first of the Lotus entries. Goodness, we got some smoke coming from some cars. I don't know.
There
what
was
that
someone
is.
locking the brakes.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
No, that was just the turbine flooring it.
As we head into the backside of the course, see the cars streaming through. Jason Whitehead looking for racing room there. It appears that everybody is clean and true and away from the grid, so no retirements. That's good to see. And David Jakes getting a heck of a challenge from Tiago Canola already. On board with Tiago. And Grant is already starting to streak away a little bit. As we come down to complete lap number 1 of the 1971 Race of Champions. Downshifting for Paddock Bend. Heading towards the backside of the course now. Early laps are always so tense with these cars, especially here comes Juha Boss going up the inside of Brian Janik. He goes into 4th place. And now Ray is looking to see if he can capitalize on this situation. So that lack of
Brian
grip that we-
sandwich there between
Yeah,
both
no kidding.
Ferraris, and they couldn't be more different cars because those Ferraris have a very heavy boxer engine. Oh!
Oh, someone's
no.
off.
Brian Janik lost the
Oh
front.
no! Oh no, Juha is off the track in his Ferrari. He's coming back on now. He's
Yeah,
right
it's
in front of
easy there.
right in front of Pascal, though. My goodness. So at least he was able to continue.
Brian Janik has lost half of the car there because there's no
Oh, my
front and no
goodness.
rear wing for him. I don't know what the
There he
status of
is.
the suspension will be.
Let's take a look at a replay of what happened here. As they were on the backside of the course, looks like it just got too close for comfort between him and Juha. Yeah, he checked up a bit and got into the gray stuff and went off into the... Yeah, he lost his front.
David
Someone's
Sauer has just spun. He touched the grass with the exterior rear wheel, and there he went. Oh, he has lost the rear wing.
Oh, David Saber, yes. All right, let's take a look at a replay of this incident. My goodness, they're coming fast and furious at us. Hard to keep track. Janik has headed for the pits. Oh, that's all it takes is just to get a little bit of the car onto the grass there, and it's enough to spin it around. So very unfortunate, and he's having to tool around without a rear wing to get back to the pits. That's really unfortunate for David. So back at the front, Grant is in the lead. Tiago is still holding down second. David Jakes is in 3rd place. Ray Radal 4th. Jan Prusa is in 5th place in his Brabham. Juha is soldiering on in 6th place. 7th is Pascal Mikula. So the Turbine looking good so far.
Very good place with that car. And fending off Jason Whitehead, who is
Whitehead
struggling
just got a
with the
little bit
sliding
sideways, I
hero.
think.
Yep, Pascal doing a good job here, holding his own in a very unusual car. Oh!
David Jan meanwhile is climbing up through the field because he started last, he couldn't qualify.
There he is, driving Clay Regazzoni's Owen Racing Organization BRM, which I believe actually this is the car that won the
No,
actual
that's
race.
Joe Siffert's car.
Oh, it's Joe Siffert's car. You know what? Wrong Swiss driver.
Yes,
Joe
he
Siffert.
wanted that car because of the Swiss driver, I guess, but yeah, it's a handful. Anyways, as usual, he's doing a great job with it.
And this is one of the few V12s in the race, or 12-cylinder engines. The other 12 cylinders are flat 12s in the Ferraris, and pretty much everything else is a Ford DFV. Oh man, David taking a huge swipe at the wheel there to keep on track. But yeah, he is definitely, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the top 5 by the end of the race. And meanwhile, Pascal is coming under attack from Jason Whitehead, driving Jackie Stewart's Tyrrell.
And you have us just got by Jan Prusa, who was doing a fantastic race with the old Brabham.
Well, Jan's not going to take that line down. He's looking on the inside as they go into clearways. I don't think he has a chance there, but going back to that battle with, oh my goodness, Whitehead is right with Pascal at this point. We'll see. This is going to be an interesting comparison of power plants and respective handling.
Yeah, and I guess when you drive such different car as the Turbine is, you are absolutely out of sync with everybody when it comes to driving. I mean, you're braking when everybody is not yet braking, you're accelerating before them, and so on and so on. So it must be really hell for Jason Whitehead to be right behind there.
Plus, he's got that turbine sound right in front of him, blasting his eardrums.
Yeah, it's already a bit of a traffic jam behind Pascal, because like I said, they might be a bit quicker, but it's so much out of sync when you're driving the Turbine car that finding the gap to overtake is not going to be easy for that lot of cars.
Yeah, you can see how it's definitely difficult for Pascal to get the power down coming out of these corners. Yeah, there is a bit of a bottleneck, a queue, as they like to say in England, starting to queue up behind Pascal. But we'll see how this pans out. Oh, Pascal getting sideways there. Opportunity for Whitehead, but of course the torque of that, once that torque kicks in on that turbine, lots of acceleration, and the aforementioned Yunt is, yes, he's getting impatient. He's coming up on Dave Miller, looking for a way by. So yeah, that's the other thing. People might start to get impatient and might make some risky moves. And with these cars, it's probably not the best thing to do. David looking up the inside of Dave Miller. Looks like he's got him this time as they head into Druids. And yes, David is passed. Looks like Pascal is a bit of a moment, and that allows Whitehead to get by as well. Miller has also lost a spot to, I believe that's Gerard Rion driving Emerson Fittipaldi's car.
Yeah, Gerard Rion is there, haunted by the angry papayas, because he has both McLarens right behind him, and they are really, really trying to get by.
So now we have...
It's the first retirement of this race.
Oh, man. Well, we've got... now it's going to be David Yunt versus Pascal in the turbine. You can hear that throaty sound of the BRM 12-cylinder engine. Very different from the Ford. An interesting thing to see also in this race will be tire wear.
Yeah, with so much sliding around. And
yeah, with
the heavy fuel load from the beginning.
Oh, and looks like Gerard is starting to catch up to David Yunt. Oh, we have a McLaren battle going on here between Little Al and Dave Miller. Little Al has gone up into 11th place, matching his car number, 11. And, well, there, Dave Miller goes back to 12th place, car number 12, so that works out. Oh, goodness. Really close quarters going into Druids as David Yunt is now alongside. Oh, man, very close quarters, but Pascal had that corner. He's like, that's mine. David's taking another stab here, but Pascal is able to keep the car just ahead of him. This is a fantastic scrap here, and...
yes, Andrew.
Oh, David! Oh, David has gotten out of shape, and I don't think he touched the barrier there.
No, he didn't.
He touched me.
I was about to say that if you're looking at the road right around the cars, you will see that there are many like dirty spots. There are flaws and specks, and that's the marvels because we're running this sim Automobilista, and you have a real racing line, and outside where the cars are racing, marbles, which are the small bits of the tires that get destroyed, are building up. So
just watching the replay,
there is really, really problematic because they slide a lot. Not much good there.
So now Yunt in that incident has dropped all the way down to 14th place. He's between Mick Chapman and the McLaren team.
Oh, a little Al just spun.
Oh
Lost the
no!
rear
Little
wing.
Al's had an incident. That's too bad.
It was just very
Oh.
fortunate it happened that.
Yeah, he can go to the pits
box
now.
entry.
There he goes. He's into the pit lane. That's too bad. Now his car looks like a Formula Ford.
It does.
Meanwhile, Mick Chapman and the Lobster Claws closing up on this group. I wouldn't be surprised though if Yunt can make up that time that he lost. Now we have an interesting battle here between the Lotus cars, one of them being the Turbine, the other one being the standard Lotus 72. This is Gerard Rion, our Belgian friend from Brussels.
Just for the record, Grant is out on himself 6 seconds into the lead in front.
Okay.
While Thiago is watched closely by David Jackson.
Oh, there's contact! Pascal does a fantastic job of not getting out of shape. Heading into Dingle-Dell. My goodness, that could have been a very, very unfortunate situation, but it looks like Gerard is not expecting... I think it's what Alberto was saying earlier, just the nature of driving these cars is very different. And if you're expecting braking at certain points in a normal car, it's not necessarily going to be the same with the Pratt & Whitney Lotus.
Nicely, Mike Olson has retired meanwhile.
Oh, that's too bad. That was his first ISO start. Sorry to hear that he's out of the race.
He was doing a very steady race. I'm not sure what happened to him, but he was doing a fine job with that very, very old car.
Well, hopefully we'll see him back soon as Gerard's looking up the inside at Druids. Pascal gets a bit wide, and there goes Gerard, passed. And now, here comes David Yunt again, but look at this! Oh, there's contact between Mikula and Gerard Rion. He's off the track, and look at that. McLaren taking advantage of other people's problems. Dave Miller slots up ahead. My goodness. So, I think what we're seeing here is that for these cars with the DFV engines and other engines to interact with the turbine on a circuit like this is awkward, to say the least. Pascal soldiering on. Let's look further up the field here, see what's going on. Ferrari is running 4th and 5th. David Jakes following Thiago. My goodness, David having a really loose moment.
And I would say that David Jakes is just keeping it calm. He's following Thiago Canola along, trying to get Thiago to probably wear too much the tires out and watching for any opportunity.
It's funny, those who have watched these drivers before in other leagues, David Jakes and Thiago Canola, know that they are of very similar skill levels, and it's funny how often we find them together.
There was someone off the track at Druids. I think that was Little Al. He's retired now.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, he got a stop and go penalty after the repairs. Not sure why.
I
think
speeding in the
David
pit
also
lane.
got it, and same for everyone that has repaired. Not sure why, but
The pit limit.
They probably forgot that there's a pit speed limit. So now Dave Miller is coming up on Pascal, but David Yunt is not too far behind, and it looks like he's going to attempt to pass on Dave Miller here. No, he doesn't have the room, but he's certainly chomping at the bit to get by. If you look at his nose too, it looks like he's got a little bit of battle damage on that BRM. Oh, he might have a chance here. Dave didn't get off the corner very well, and Yunt just doesn't have the room on the inside he would like. And as they head to clearways here, maybe there'll be a chance for him to put the horsepower of that Ford to use. I'm sorry, of the BRM. Oh yes, Dave has another slow exit. Dave is making that McLaren very wide indeed, protecting his line. Heading into the paddock bend one more time, downhill. We're working lap 11 now, so we're a little over a fifth into the race.
We should be putting this Turbine car in more races because it causes such a traffic jam right behind it that it makes for a really exciting race.
And here comes Yunt up the inside. He's looking the inside, David, but no, he's not able to get alongside. Oh, he might have a shot here now as they come on the backside of the course. Miller moves to the left. Yeah, David's going to take a shot here going into this right-hander. He gets the job done. David Yunt up to ninth place.
Yeah,
little
that's
bit
the
of
power of the 12-cylinder.
Yes. Little
And
bit of
also don't
opposite lock.
forget that Dave Miller is running with a year-old McLaren.
That's true, too. But doing a good job. Looks like he's got one wing a little bit askew on the front of that car. So he's had a bit of... Oh, David Yunt goes off the track. Coming back on, so... I mean, these cars are... they're a handful to take care of. I mean, they definitely don't have a... there's no ground effects here. They do not have an excessive grip. So with that interaction, that actually allowed Pascal to pull out a little bit of a gap.
Well, these cars were basically dragsters, absolutely rigged for acceleration because back then the tire technology could not really cope well with the power that you could get from the engines. So that's why they got those big fat rear tires, and everything about them was to slide through the corner, point it out, and then hammer.
It's interesting that you bring up dragsters, because the tires that were being used at this point were actually a development of drag racing tires that did not have tread. And this was the first time that they were really used in earnest in Formula One.
And the story goes that someone received a set of those tires by error. They were very puzzled about it, getting tires without any groove at all. But then they mounted them, started racing, and they were absolutely gobsmacked with the performance of the tire with no groove. Oh, Dave Miller.
Oh my goodness! David Yunt with the back end stepping out. He is really chomping at the bit. Oh, alongside now. This might be his chance, but no. Pascal's got the inside line protected, and Yunt has to step back behind the Turbine car, heading to clear ways here.
It must be really frustrating to have that very powerful 12-cylinder rear end
and not be able to use it.
Yeah, but
because
the
you're
Turbine
bottled
car
up,
always running away from you.
Yeah, I showed Pascal the intro that I created for this broadcast, and he very cheekily replied, 4 out of 10 does not have the turbine in it. So, but he's making up for it now. He's getting lots and lots of TV time. Oh my goodness, left-hand side tires really smoking for Pascal under acceleration.
As I said, it's got open diffs all around.
Yes. Things are pretty quiet up in the front here. Top 5 are Juha, Ray Radal, both in Ferraris, David Jakes in Team Surtees number 29, Canola in number 22, and leading Grant Radal. But we should keep our eye on Grant, because as well as he's running and as quick as he's going, he's the kind of guy who either wins or crashes usually.
Yeah, and racing alone by yourself is always very difficult because you tend to lose concentration easily. Oh, Dave was in the grass, but he was able to keep his position, though he got now Gerard way closer behind.
Oh yes. I didn't know what David you were referring to for a moment there, but oh yes, Gerard looking up the inside. There's this. Well, okay, he might have a chance here. Now he ran out of room on the inside of the paddock bend, and Mick Chapman is waiting with the lobster claw behind these two, heading into Druid's Bend. You can still hear Pascal's car ahead of this group. It's just this ambient airplane noise everywhere you go.
I don't know if you have shown in the broadcast a shot of the
Gerard is sideways. Gerard sideways. I don't know. He might have beached the car on the This is interesting. The car is stationary. I don't know why he's...
Maybe the engine got shut down.
I don't know, but... Oh, Gerard's out of the race. That's too bad. I don't know what happened there. And that curb was not big enough for him to get beached. At least I wouldn't think so. Oh, and here's David Yunt still trying to get by the Turbine. These two glued together.
Like I said, I don't know if you have shown in the broadcast the cockpit view for Pascal Mikula, but so that everybody can see the fun about the gauges. And you you can realize there how different the car is.
Let's take a look at the gauges. I'll zoom in on them here, and you can explain to our viewers what we're looking at. So
yeah,
the farthest left,
the two RPM counters that you would normally see in this case are just the turbine indicators of the RPMs of the turbine. But as you can see, it has no transmission at all. So it's when the gauge is down, it's like a speedometer, almost. No gear shifts at all. And there you see, as the RPMs climb, so does the speed at the same time. And it's really an aircraft cockpit.
Yeah, basically.
I should also say that it doesn't have any engine braking either, which, considering how heavy it is, doesn't make the brakes life any easier.
I'd also be curious about the fuel that this car used. I'm not certain if it was the same type that the rest of the series used. Here comes Yunt looking to get by. He does. He finally gets by Pascal into 8th place. The point that you brought up earlier, I hadn't thought of it, but you're right. The size of the wheels on this car... Oh, and as Pascal runs into the grass, the size of the wheels on the Lotus are equal from front to back, whereas if you look at the other cars, they have much fatter tires on the back. What kind of impact would that have on the handling of this car?
Well, that's because it was all-wheel drive, so you wanted to have to maximize the tire grip on the four corners, but it's also because, as Pascal said, the car was very understeery by nature, so you don't want any extra grip on the rear because the rear is anyways not too prone to sliding.
Yeah, I personally would rather want bigger tires on the front.
Well, now he's got Dave Miller right behind him. I don't know if Mrs. Dave is watching, Angel May, but her significant other getting a bit of TV time here. Dave is just entering the top 10 with this year-old McLaren. Oh, he runs onto the grass. Broadcaster curse.
It's also a matter of Pascal having very different lines because of the nature of the car. So when you're trying to follow it with a car that is different, you end up in the grass because you can't do what the Turbine car is doing.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Hub Boss has just had a spin. It appears he spun on his own. This is heading up towards Clearway. He's not sure what happened there, but he's going to be in 7th place now, scored as he comes by. Let's take a look at a replay of what happened here from an onboard camera in the Ferrari. Oh, he had a similar problem to what David Saber had. Back tire getting on the grass, and it was just enough to send it spinning like a top. But we're happy to say that he's back running again, 7th place. So that promotes Whitehead to 6th and Prusa to 5th. Ridal is still 4th. Jakes is 3rd. Tiago 2nd, and Grant Ridal soldiering on in the lead. 9 seconds now out in front of Tiago. And we are on lap 17.
Not even half race, but we have had so much action that it seemed like a much longer time span.
Hope everybody is watching on YouTube is enjoying. Of course, it'll be available for viewing after the fact as a taped race. But this is the debut International Sim Racing Organization broadcast. And lots of familiar names and faces for those of you who are familiar with another league. But a lot of the same talent and same effort that goes on in said league is coming over to ISO, and we hope that you will join us in 2020 as we have 3 remarkable series on the docket for you. While we have a break in the action, I'll remind everybody of the trivia question, because there may be some people who joined the broadcast late. The question is, who recorded the fastest lap in the 1971 Race of Champions? Was it A, Denny Hulme, B, Emerson Fittipaldi, or C, Graham Hill?
And Juha Boss is heading for the pits.
Oh, well, he might have damaged the car.
Maybe so. Or miscalculated the fuel because the thirsty Ferrari engine.
Oh, he's out of the race! Oh.
Probably handling problems. He might have had suspension damage.
He didn't hit the wall though when he had that incident. So that's strange because maybe he just, I don't know, the Ferrari and him just weren't getting along for some reason.
Channel.
As we have, and who is this in the booth?
I just retired one of the Ferraris.
Oh, it's Juha Boss. I'm sorry to hear that, Juha. So what was the story with you and the Maranello crew? A bit of a misunderstanding in the handling department, or what was going on there?
Yeah, the car handled fantastic for the first 15 laps, and then the last 3 ones it just got so oversteering. I thought I'm gonna park this. I'm just gonna keep crashing it. Handled well on full fuel, but wasn't going anywhere with the rest of the race, so rather park it. Couldn't end up in the wall anyway.
Oh, we're watching.
Fastest.
We're watching Dave Miller right now as he tries to close in on the turbine. Pascal's been at the center of a lot of the action going on just because of how peculiar it is to have this car in the race, on a circuit like this with other cars that generate their power and their torque and energy just in a completely different way. The interaction's been educational, to say the least.
I am personally starting to have some problems. Not related to the car, but related to my setup here.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's a little problem because Alberto said the car doesn't have a gearbox. However, the game, well, it does have a forward gear, which, otherwise it wouldn't be able to drive. And, my first gear sort of likes to jump out from now and then.
Uh-oh.
Yep, that's a little bit of an issue, I would say.
Well, knowing Pascal, he'll find a way to soldier on with said issue. As we're watching from Dave Miller's car. Let's see the
It
Kiwi.
seems that Dave has already smelled the blood in the water, and he's closing in.
But also, the lobster claw of Mick Chapman is closing in, so this is going to be a 3-car battle.
Right, I'm gonna let you enjoy it. Have a good evening. See you later.
All right, see you, Juha. Sorry you're out.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness! Oh, no!
And there go bits of Lotus flying around. Did you get suspension damage?
You bet I did.
Oh, that's
yeah,
too
I
bad.
see it. Turn to the left.
Here's the replay. My goodness. Looks like Pascal already had some dirt on his wheels from a previous excursion, but yeah, it just...
Well, it tank slapped on him.
Tank slapped, yeah, that's what... Yeah, there it is. There's the tank slap into the grass or into the grass. Oh, man. Oh, that's too bad, Pascal. Sorry about that.
I mean, that's that little gearbox issue I just mentioned. I couldn't save it because I didn't have the gear engaged. And otherwise, I would have just floored it and it would have done something. But it didn't do something, so it just went into the wall.
Well, it was fun.
I'm gonna keep going anyway.
Yeah.
Let's try. Keep going.
Mick Chapman in 9th place, following Dave Miller. Now that now it's a straight-up fight between 2 Ford-powered cars with 2 very different aerodynamics packages. Maybe Alberto can impart to us what the logic was behind the shape of the lobster claw.
Basically, that was what at the time was called the... Oh, what's that?
Hmm?
A wheel? I did see a wheel spinning around there. It must be a graphical glitch or another car that crashed. Okay.
It could be a leftover part.
Yeah, could be. Anyways, the logic behind those...
No, there's actually a wheel. There's a loose wheel somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, there's a car somewhere with 3 wheels on it.
David Junt has quit. David Junt, he must have hit the wall because he's missing a wheel. That must have been it.
Well, that must be the car that's missing the wheel.
Looking at the replay now.
He lost it at the same place where I lost it.
Yeah, he also touched the grass.
Pretty infamous corner, I would say.
Yeah,
So-
there was a wheel getting back to the track, and that's what we saw before. So anyways, we're talking about the nose. That
Yes.
variant of nose was called sports car's nose, and it was an attempt to get better aerodynamics and cover a bit the front wheels, which are in itself very very badly aerodynamic for the car. So there were many different variants of that sports car's nose theme. Some of them tried to get more downforce, others simply less drag. And I guess in the case of the lobster claw Brabham, they were just trying to get the car probably had the radiators there in the inside of those square big holes for a better weight distribution, and other than that they were just trying to get the airflow over the front tires. So yes, I'm looking at it. Indeed, you can see when looking from behind the exit of the radiators. The radiators were there in those big holes.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, well, they tried to get downforce and a bit more streaming.
I hear a plane taking off again. And apparently Pascal is leaving the pits again. As here comes the leader, Grant Radal, down towards Druids Bend. Chacon is now a lap down in his Tyrrell. Thiago Canola in second place. There he is. We are now waiting for the third place car. And waiting.
And
Here
Jason
comes
Whited
David J.
is getting closer to Jan Prusa.
Ah. Yeah, Whited's another guy that seems to excel in these cars. He's been having some good drives in other series during the year. He's driving Jackie Stewart's cars. They head into... Oh, goodness, he had a little bit of an odd entry into Druids there. But yes, you're right, Alberto. He is closing in on Jan Prusa.
Prusa is about 300ths of a second, 300ths of a second, maybe. Lower than Whited, and that's the pace about which Whited is falling on him. Yeah, he's getting visibly closer.
Yeah, give him another couple laps and he might be able to challenge. Top 5 placing at stake here. Oh goodness, a bit of a lurid moment there, is there?
Yeah, he's trying. Watching the car in front getting closer, that's always a big motivator.
Big carrot. Jake soldiering on in third place. Thiago in second. Oh, Grant Radal has just put a lap on the Turbine, and he's got a couple other cars he's going to have to get by. One of them being Mick Chapman, who's in 8th right now. This is a small field for this race. We started 17 cars, but just now we're getting to the point where we're about at the halfway point of this race, and just now the leader is starting to filter into the top 10 as far as lapping goes. The gap between Grant Radal and the second place car of Thiago Canola is 12.114 seconds as of now. So Grant is streaking away, but as I've mentioned before, Grant is a very much an all-or-nothing driver, so we should keep a close eye on him. I've lost count of how many times Grant has
I
had
see
an
a yellow
issue.
flag. That's
Oh.
Pascal Mikula has spun.
Uh-oh.
They're in the grass. And he's clear now. Is the suspension still damaged, Pascal?
More than before.
Oh.
So, Thiago Canola, who is leading another series that you may be watching here and there, he is driving a what is called the T-tray wing march. And obviously back then they were just taking stabs in the dark with aerodynamics. They didn't use wind tunnels really. And this is a car that has a pretty unusual front wing. In the final analysis, Alberto, with this car, was it a good car or not?
It wasn't a bad car, but certainly not because of the front wing. I mean,
Okay.
with the front wing, yeah, like you said, there was not much of tunnel work. So what they basically did is they started bolting parts on the car, and then they waited and see how scared the driver came back from the track or how much he cursed, and depending on that, the part would stay or not. That's basically how it all went back then. And in the case of this front wing, it's very funny because the wings, they work much better when they are close to the track. So in the normal position, they would certainly work better. But probably they were trying to both cantilever it so that it could make a bit more downforce, and to also use it to, again, divert airstream over the top of the car so that it became a bit more aerodynamic. You can also see the very weird position of the radiators there in the front, in the rear.
Yeah,
wings.
they're totally exposed. There's not even a duct
hanging
that
there
leaves.
as if they were
Yeah.
dirty laundry. I mean, it's a bit of a weird place to be, but
Well, there were
anyways.
other versions of this car that had like a kind of a shroud leading into it that you're used to seeing on, say, like a Lotus 72 and other cars.
Yes, but the good points about the car is that the chassis-wise, it was a sound car. I mean, it was easy to drive, it was well balanced, and it had a very powerful Cosworth engine. There were some of the factory teams that had preferential treatment, so to speak, and a more powerful engine. And of course, they had Ronnie Peterson or Henry Pescarolo, as in this case, and that made the car get some better results than it would otherwise have
Yes,
gotten.
Ronnie Peterson was famous for driving around a car's problems rather than working on the setup and trying to make the car better. He was odd in that way, as many team accounts have stated over the years. So, yeah, I mean, whatever shortcomings the 711 might have had, that might account for the reason why it had such good results in the hands of Ronnie, is that he was able to just drive around whatever issues it had.
He was also a very aggressive driver, very hard on equipment.
That too.
He was constantly sliding, but he was probably one of the most gifted drivers that have ever existed in Formula One.
He's on many people's top 5 list, including mine, of most gifted drivers ever. No question about it. And Janik is out of the race. I'm not sure. Well, this was probably a while ago. Sorry, with the incident that he had and he was in the pits. So sorry for my alarmist reaction. I apologize. So if we look back at Prusa's now in 6th and Whitehead's in 5th. So we missed the interaction there, but Whitehead now up into 5th. So we'll see if he can make any inroads on Ray Radal, who's just a little further up the
Going
road.
by the distance, I would venture that Prusa had a slight off-track excursion or
Probably.
error, because Whitehead has put a lot of distance on him. That's not from a normal overtake and stretching the lead.
And the last car running at the moment is Pascal Mikula, but that's he's 10th. So as long as he keeps soldiering on, he's going to be a top 10 finisher in the Turbine. Who would have thunk it in a car like this? I just received an alert. Jan Kowalski has subscribed to the channel. I'm getting YouTube alerts as we go. So if you want to play Distract the Broadcaster, subscribe to the channel. It's funny. Seriously, speaking about ISO, it's really been fun to watch how everything's come together with the league in a very short period of time. Previous to what you see going on now, ISO was really just kind of a shoestring operation. There wasn't really much going on with it. It was just occasionally there would be races run. But now we've decided to put our full effort into it. And everything's coming together really well. The forum looks fantastic, and that's in large part due to Alberto's contributions. We have this new YouTube channel that's up and running and ready to go. A lot of effort's gone into giving the channel its own branding and its own look. that works with the type of mods we're doing and the general nature of the forum, the way it's designed. Hopefully it's coming together the way people would expect. And
Yeah, basically, ISO is our bet for Automobilista because, as
Yes.
you all know, there are several platforms out there for the racing, but have been running for a long time already mods on our own. I mean, we have been a modding team that has been together for a long time, and we have done, I think, some pretty decent things. And we wanted to keep together, and we wanted to have full control of the mod because we want the most possible realism. And Automobilista currently has all the features that we need for that. There are platforms like R-Factor 2, where you don't have any control at all over the tire model because it's so complicated and you need the specific tools to do it. And there are other platforms like Assetto Corsa. Great looking games, certainly. Open to modding, but you can, for example, do oval racing with it because you don't have yellow flags, and then it has its own shortcomings, so to speak. For us, we wanted to really have the opportunity to produce mods like the ones that you're just watching, Formula 171, to produce what we really want and not to be limited to what is available around. And that's the reasoning and the logic behind us revitalizing ISO and willing to continue with our jobs here.
all right, well, since we have and that's a very good summary of where we're at, Alberto. Thank you very much. A lot of the team that you've seen over at Historic Sim Racing Organization is coming over to ISO. So a lot of what you've enjoyed over there in terms of broadcasts and content and organization is basically just going to be soldiering on, but in this new venue. So that'll give you an idea of what you can expect. Since things have calmed down quite a lot, probably a good idea to go ahead and do the trivia answer if you guys are game for that.
Go. I'm really looking
All right.
forward to knowing who it was. I have
All
already...
right,
Well, I know who I think wasn't.
okay, well,
I'm wrong.
let's read the question one more time for everybody. The question was, who recorded the fastest lap in the 1971 Race of Champions? Was it A, Denny Hulme, B, Emerson Fittipaldi, or C, Graham Hill? Everybody have a think?
Well, I would say Graham Hill, because Denny Hulme was in the McLaren that was not the most performing car, and Emerson Fittipaldi was using at this race, I think, the Turbine car, or was it in a Lotus, in a normal Lotus?
So,
I think
Albert?
it was Emerson. I don't know. It's just, for me personally, most probable answer, Emerson.
all right, so you say Emerson, and Alberto says Graham. The correct answer was Graham Hill.
Okay.
So Alberto gets it correct. Unfortunately, you got it wrong, Pascal. Sorry about that.
Yeah, but if Emerson had been in the normal Lotus, then maybe it would have been way more competitive. But in this Turbine car, I don't think he would be having any chance of getting the quickest lap.
All right. Well, it looks like a bunch of people got that right on the forum. Angel May and Richard Coxon also said C. Barry Lynn said B. Sorry, Barry Lynn. But while we're on the subject of the actual race, I think we mentioned earlier that Regazzoni won. I'm getting some alerts from somebody here. I don't know where to find them.
No, I was just telling you to follow Miller and Chapman because they are already close together.
Okay.
Chapman is eyeing the position that Dave Miller has now.
Oh, yes, there he is. Yes, very close together. On the subject of the history of this race, Regazzoni won the race in real life. These are notes that were compiled by Mr. Constant for us, and we thank him for that. The Ferrari won the race thanks to starting on dry tires along with Hill and the Brabham. The rest started on wet tires because it was a damp start. This was also the first race that several new cars appeared, those being, like the car we're with right now, the Brabham BT34. Frank Williams took delivery of his March 711, which was driven by Ronnie Peterson, who got a 10-second penalty in the race due to missing the Saturday practice. That's a pretty stiff penalty.
Chapman now really close to Dave Miller.
Yes, very close now.
We'll start to study him and see where he thinks he can pass him.
This is a battle for 7th place.
Miller running the only papaya that is surviving in the race at the moment.
And not that Dave can hear us, but Angel May is pulling for him to fend off Chapman. Oh, goodness.
McLaren, who by the way will be racing again IndyCar next year.
Oh, yes. You mean in the real series?
In the real series.
Are you
and
sure?
in our
Because
virtual ones too.
Because they've gone back and forth on that, haven't they? For a minute it sounded like they were doing it, and then they decided no. I haven't heard the very latest on that. Oh goodness! Chapman is off the course and in the wall. He didn't lose his wings or wheels, so apparently he can keep going. But I would guess there's some suspension damage, some bent claws. My goodness. Let's take a look at a replay of that, since it's, you know, the race is pretty calm, and this is some of the few action we've seen right now. See what happened coming into clearways. Oh, the back end just got around on him there, and it looks like he had a pretty just kind of square hit with the wall, which would account for why the car didn't lose wings. So the question is, does he have suspension damage on the right-hand side of the car? There you can see
watching from the cockpit view, and it seems that he keeps a straight steering wheel. So maybe there is not a lot of damage, though he's making corrections, I'm not sure, but I think that if there is some damage, it will be a slight one. He was really fortunate not to lose any parts of the car that could have forced him to the pit.
Well, I mean,
we'll watch the lap times and see if he is any slower.
It's unfortunate for us because it ruined what was going to be an interesting battle. As things have pretty much calmed down in the front here. And Grant Riddall continues to soldier on here, and he's got just about 15 laps to go to take this ISO win, which is not tied to a championship, but definitely counts in an all-time stat sort of way. And Grant's dad is still in the race too, in 4th place in a Ferrari. And this was a point in Ferrari's lore where they were starting to be in the descendants, I would think, right?
Yes, it wouldn't be until Niki Lauda caught them much later, 4 years later, and started to turn them into a bit more of a professional team. And then they won again.
Very much relying still on the power of their engine. And I'm pretty sure that this Ferrari was still relying on tubular construction with panels. It was not a true monocoque.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, which...
But the philosophy of Ferrari back then, I mean, from the very own Enzo Ferrari, was my car wins races, my drivers lose them.
Man.
He was still, well, used to the old days when he was racing himself and the driver could make up for a lot of the deficiencies in the car, but this was obviously no longer the case in 71.
And he also said something about aerodynamics being for people who can't build engines. Ground effects came around.
Those mythical
Well, I mean, that's been the story of Ferrari through its entire existence, really. Is one of self-assuredness and, quite frankly, arrogance on being their undoing. Thinking they can soldier on with what they have when other people have new technologies they're developing, and ending up regretting it later and being late to the party. And it happened time and again. Alberto's quite correct when he points out that Niki Lauda's arrival at Ferrari was basically what heralded their mid-70s resurgence. He helped get them onto the path that they got on so that Lauda could win 2 championships with them. But then another period of nadir came along. Not that much further. Well, when the turbo era came along, they had a brief period of success. But I think we can all remember the Ferraris of the early 90s when Prost was not very happy and he ended up getting fired for speaking out of turn. And they were definitely in a descendance there, much to the dismay of Jean Alesi, a talent that really should
Ferrari
have had.
back then failed to really make the most of having Prost aboard because he was
really
very
did.
professional guy. Obviously, not as quick, not the talent of Ayrton Senna, but certainly a world champion of the highest caliber. I mean, a guy that was very rational and very good at organizing things. I mean, he could have potentially been the second Niki Lauda for the team. And they had to wait until Michael Schumacher came along. It was exactly the same type of guy as Niki Lauda, absolutely focused, with German organization in his mind, and brought them again to the top.
I think there's one other driver that doesn't receive enough credit for keeping Ferrari from going into complete oblivion competitively, and that would be Gerhard Berger. Because Berger, when he arrived at Ferrari for his second stint in the mid-90s, did a good job to get them back to winning form, I think. His patience and his experience probably were really helpful.
Yeah, though, he was nothing like Niki Lauda in terms of
No.
professionalism, because
obviously
he was well known as a hard partier. But yeah, he was also professional.
It appears Mick Chapman is out of the race, so Lobster Claw has issues again. Oh, he's upside down this time. My goodness. One of the nice things about sim racing is that nobody gets hurt. And here's a good example of that. Yeah, he just... My goodness. Not sure what happened. Okay, we have ping issues here, so we can't really see the full breadth of what happened here, but it appears... Oh yeah, he ran off the course, just misjudged Druid's Bend and lost a wheel. My goodness. The Lobster Claw comes to a very unfortunate end.
Yeah, this is a track that is
Not
actually
unlike,
quite
Lobster
difficult
Claw
for these
and,
cars. Because there is a lot of weight on the rear, they are very tail happy, they get light when they lose the fuel. And this is a track where you have constantly up and down hill sections that unbalance the car a lot. So
Jan Prusa has spun the car. Sorry to interrupt you, Alberto, but Jan Prusa has just spun. Let's have a look in a replay. This is on the back side of the course. Looks like he's having trouble getting the power down. On board.
Yeah, tire wear is obviously starting
to be a problem, yeah. Oh yeah, the back end just spun around on him. He just flat out lost it. Didn't even touch the... Looks like he had to restart the motor as well. But Jan is still going. Now, the interesting part of this is that that causes... well, Dave Miller is actually a pretty decent... Oh, Dave now goes off the track. So we're seeing an epidemic of off-course excursions here.
It's also a matter of maybe the concentration not being at the highest point.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
We've been running already for an hour, and that's about the point where everybody gets a bit of...
No! I don't believe it! It happened again! Grant Ridall's out of the race! What happened? Unbelievable!
Oh,
no. Okay. Okay, I can go back far enough to see what happened here, but, alright. We're seeing the tail end of it here, and I'm running in reverse on the film. We'll see what happened here.
He touched a curb while
yeah, he touched
braking.
the grass.
Spun, and probably the engine got killed.
Yeah, the engine cuts out as he goes into that. And did he blow the engine, I'm guessing? He can't get the thing started again. He's frantically sawing at the wheel, trying to get going again, but apparently he can't start the car. So he just that. I mean, that's the same thing that's been happening to other people in the race. That's incredible bad luck. Grant Ridall retires after dominating this race. Unbelievable. Prusa is 5th. Whitehead elevated to 4th. Ray Radal,
Yeah, we
the
were
Ferrari.
talking about that. The loss of concentration is one of the biggest problems when you're running out on yourself in the front.
And pour yourself a cup of Earl Grey and get some crumpets because the T-Tray wing is in front. I just made up that one just now. Bill Shakespeare over here. Tiago leads the race, driving for Frank Williams in the March 711. Odd to see it leading this race, but we all are familiar with Tiago's talent. That's not something we have any doubt of.
Talking about Grant Riddell, it's almost, what also just came to my mind is from a video I watched recently. I think it was, compared to, I don't know, Davey Allison, 92, in NASCAR, winning or spinning. You either win or you don't make it. At some point, Grant is going to do both in the same race.
That's high praise comparing Grant to Davey Allison. Because I saw Davey Allison race many times going to Michigan International Speedway as a kid, and he was certainly in his winning form back then. One of the best. Of course, he had one of the best motors in front of him too, built by Robert Yates. So yeah, I mean, Whitehead now, I mean, after lingering in the bottom of the top 10 for a lot of the races, now up to 4th, doing really good. Ray is in 3rd in the Ferrari. Jakes is in 2nd, and Tiago, as we mentioned, is 1st. And we have now 10 laps to go, officially, in this race.
And Tiago has a big enough lead, so he should be safe, but as we have seen with Grant, light slip of your mind and you can lose everything very quickly here.
That's all it takes. Speaking of, I mean, I am far from the most talented person to take a wheel in hand as a sim racer, but I would say that one of the real attractions for it for me is the challenge of focusing the mind and not making mistakes. That if I can get through a 2-hour race and not having made any major mistakes, I feel pretty good about myself. It doesn't even matter if I'm in the top 10 or 15 or whatever. If I can soldier all that distance and keep the car in one piece and not make any big mistakes, that's pretty good. I like that.
It's a big challenge, and it's something that crosses over for many sports. I mean, I have several friends who like to do marathon runnings and long distance running on their own, and they always say that to me because I ask them, how can you have the resistance, the stamina to go like, I don't know, 10 kilometers, 15 or even a full marathon? And they say, no, don't misjudge it. It's more of a mental challenge than it is a physical challenge. And I say, wow, I can't believe that, because it's really difficult when you are on your own to pace yourself, to keep the focus, to not get distracted. And driving is very much the same.
Oh, speaking of which, look at how much Tiago's getting out of shape there as he heads onto the backside of the course. So his tires are definitely starting to get down to the cords. If these tires had cords, I don't know.
Yeah, all of them have, but these are bias ply tires and not radial tires, which means that the cords are in a different position. They are perpendicular to the way the car travels.
So real quickly, before we forget, those of you who joined the broadcast late, let's have a quick look at what's coming up in the year 2020 for International Sim Racing Organization, the debut championship season. First, we have 1974 USAC Championship cars, 13 races, lots of turning left. And as many a European sim racer have discovered, thanks to the effort of Alberto and many people to make these mods, turning left all the time is not as easy as you might think. Then we have 1991 Formula One, a tried and true favorite that everyone loves. Always produces exciting racing. And for the Tin Top crowd, we have 1997 Super Touring in Australia, which includes the Bathurst 1000. So that's a fantastic grouping. We're also going to have probably open races during the year, our old kind of open race cup, I believe named after the very late and near and dear to our hearts, Lucas Vidra, who we lost way too soon this year. So that's a look at what's coming up for ISO in 2020.
We will, and we will be using also other mods that we have developed. There will be sports car racing, be sure of that, because we happen to like that a lot. And, well, Pascal already hinted at it. We will be trying, we're experimenting and trying to see what happens with the possibility of putting the USAC mod in Automobilista, because there is one very special feature of this simulator that should be certainly amazing in Automobilista, and that's the turbo, the real turbo. Having a real turbo that works as the ones that the people had to tame back then, that would be really awesome. But, well, we'll keep it for now and see if we are able to get it to work as we want, but the possibility is there. And then the sports car racing, obviously, sports car from the 80s, the Group C mod, that will appear sooner or later in a series for us, in open races or short series, because that was also part of the big turbo era, and we have that effect very wonderfully displayed here in Automobilista, and we will be racing with that.
So coming up close to the end of the race here, 7 laps to go, 6.5 really. Tiago Canola, who lives in Detroit. I've met him on occasion. He's friends with some people that I work with, and he's also an acquaintance of Brian Janik. So this is somewhat the Detroit connection going on here, both in the booth and on the track.
Many Detroiters around.
Yes, lots of Detroiters. Yeah, watching Tiago now, he's definitely struggling with that car to keep it going straight. So we'll see what the gap is as he crosses the line. 34 seconds. Well, he can afford to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, but because Jax is also struggling. I mean, everybody's already on worn tires, and that is showing clearly.
The T-Tray wing soldiering on.
And all the disgraces and the problems from the people in front have propelled Ray Riddle to the 3rd place for now, at least, in the podium position.
Yep.
That's a good reward for his always steady driving.
Yeah, Ray's a steady guy. For sure. He doesn't have quite the pyrotechnic driving qualities of his son. In a way, it kind of reminds me of the difference between Michael and Mario Andretti. If you think about it.
Indeed, that's a great comparison.
Yeah, once in a while I come up with one that's good.
Jason Whitey there is still struggling with the Tyrrell. Now he's about to lap his teammate, Bruno Chacon.
Oh, Bruno.
Both Tyrrells together. Which, there's one thing that you can always say about Bruno Chacon. He might not be the quickest driver, but he's certainly one of the steadiest. I mean, he's the guy who is always there at the end of the races.
Yeah, he always manages to finish. I remember he actually was one of the 3 cars that finished our 1937 race that we ran a while back. Remember that one?
Well, he dragged that big Mercedes with the huge power and the bicycle tires all the way during 2 hours for the podium at Brent Garden, which was really amazing to see, and speaks a lot about his qualities as a steady driver. We were talking about not losing focus and being able to hold on, keep your concentration during a race, and well, I think that Bruno Chacon is one of the best in that regard. Like we said, not the quickest driver, but when it comes to not losing focus, well, I really envy that from him. I can tell you that, because my mind tends to wander a lot while I'm racing.
Meanwhile, Angel May and Barry Lynn Wilson are having a discussion about drag racing on the on the YouTube chat. So,
Drag racing.
Yes.
You and me have already talked about it. That's one of the things that we should try one day. At least as a stupid fun event, but we need to try that.
Well, we've got Ontario. We could do a drag strip there.
We have the quarter mile drag strip there. Yeah.
I wanna drive a top fueler there.
But a historic one at least.
Yes, a historic one like Big Daddy Don Garlett's, you know. Oh, and speaking of top fuel, on the subject of fuel, Coxon a while back said, as Jakes comes dangerously close to getting on the grass, we've seen what that can do to people. Coxon pointed out that the turbine was powered by kerosene.
Yeah, it was. I was suspecting it because it was a helicopter engine, but I wasn't sure, so I didn't want to say it.
Oh,
But
goodness! Pascal's spun again, but he's still soldiering on in 8th place.
This thing doesn't want. Oh, Dave.
Okay, so Dave gets by.
This thing does not drive straight, even if I. No, I'm basically idling.
You don't
it
have
around
far
the
to go
track.
now, Pascal. Top 10 finish in that car is a fantastic result. Just keep it rolling.
Tires are square now, I can tell you that.
They were round. They were once made of rubber. So, yeah, Jakes has got a 5-second gap between himself and Ray Radal. I'm not sure if that will change between now and the end of the race. We got 4 laps to go. But David certainly isn't going to be able to challenge Tiago. It's a massive gap between him and the T-Tray wing with the green helmet. I believe this was Henri Pascarolo. That,
It was, yes.
Yes. The other green helmet in this series, can anybody guess? The answer is Rainer Wiesel.
Oh,
Yes. So, the most interesting battle I would think that could happen here is if Ray can catch. He still doesn't have him in sight. Oh, he sees a little bit of him as they go into clearways here.
he's going slightly quicker than David Jacks, but certainly not enough to catch up with him in the rest of the race.
Yeah, 3 laps to go now. Well, like 47, 48, 49. Well, 4 actually now. They're working lap 47, so 47, 48, 49, and 50 left to go. But he can see him. And as we've mentioned before in this broadcast, that's a huge carrot, seeing the car in front of you. As we look, we're looking into the eyes of Brian Redmond. That's the nice thing about this mod is that the helmets, the texturing on the helmets actually have the faces of the drivers themselves.
It does, yes.
Such is the detail of this mod. And you can just see there the Ferrari poking into the corner of the picture.
So if I had to pick one thing about this mod that I really like, that would be the sounds. They are absolutely amazing, and they
the
reflect
sounds are
pretty well
great.
the variety in engines.
And the gap
Miller
looks,
is catching up with Bruno Chacon now. Look at that. Miller may be able to get one position from Bruno Chacon. Because
Oh,
he's
interesting.
really catching up with him quickly.
yeah, he is. It's true.
1.9 seconds behind, but coming quickly. Oh,
If this, oh man, he's definitely
Brian.
he's definitely getting after it. He wants to have a shot at that. I mean, obviously there are no points on the line, even if this were a F171 championship we were doing. This is a non-points race, so it's just for pride. But David has definitely got the bit between his teeth, and I'm sure Angel May is throwing energy at him, a la Teresa Fittipaldi used to from the pits in Indianapolis for Emerson.
Well, I don't remember. I think Dave Miller has raced with us in Indianapolis, right?
Yes, Dave actually has one of the more memorable qualifying stories of
Jan
Indianapolis
Prusa
with
is out of
the
the race.
what?
Jan Prusa is out of the race.
Oh no!
Apparently.
No!
Oh, to come this far.
He still
That's-
gets classified, I think.
He'll get classified at this point, but that's too bad. Yes, Dave Miller has raced Indianapolis with us before using the 73 mod, and his was particularly an interesting story because he was racing for MVS Racers in Eagle Foyt and crashed in his qualifying attempt and had to wait until the very end of the session to qualify again, and we made a mock newspaper showing the plight that he went through.
Right, I can remember that now.
That was fun.
And I was
I had
just thinking when you mentioned about Teresa Fittipaldi, because I was thinking that, well, maybe if he races again in Indianapolis with us, he can have Angel May be the glamorous wife at the paddock at Indianapolis.
Yes. Well, he's definitely closing on. We've got 2 laps to go now, more or less. I believe 1, possibly. No, we got 2 laps to go for the leaders. Well, actually now 1, because here comes Tiago through, and he's starting his final lap now. There's a look at the ISO final lap graphic. Again, all new graphics here because this is a new league.
And it's going to be hard for Dave unless Bruno makes an error. Because Bruno seems to have sped up also. He wants to keep
Yes,
that
he
position
has. He
that
wants to
now
get-
has become a 5th position.
Yeah, he wants to. Yeah, it's now a battle for 5th place with Jan Prusa's retirement. So we've got Tyrrell's in 5th and 4th place, respectively. Ferrari in 3rd. David Jakes is in 2nd.
There's a yellow,
Canola.
yellow flag on the back straight.
Oh my goodness. Wonder what's going
Miller,
on back
five
here.
Dave Miller.
He lost the car.
Dave
There's
Miller!
He's standing. He's stationary.
He's out of the race. What happened? My
His
goodness.
car looked okay, but his engine seemed to
Ugh.
be shut off.
His engine's off. No.
Out of fuel, maybe?
Maybe he miscalculated on the fuel. Who knows? But as ever, there goes Tiago past the turbine. The turbine soldiering on in 8th place. Tiago looking to score a win in a car that has a polarizing reputation.
It's
Mechanically
actually
sound.
6th place for the Turbine because Miller and Prusa did not finish.
Well,
but
the
they're
lap
too
count
far
might be
ahead.
different.
They're too far ahead. They're 7 laps ahead of me.
So
Yes,
coming
fine.
out
Make that
of
up.
the last turn, coming towards the checkered flag, there it is. Tiago Canola wins the 1971 Race of Champions for Frank Williams for our ISO fun race. We look at him here from the chopper. Fantastic job, Tiago. Great drive. In 2nd place, obscured by trees for a moment there, is David Jakes. He hasn't come to the line yet, but he's got about a 3-second gap between himself and Ray Radal. So Ray was closing that entire time, but just didn't have the. If he had had more laps, he might have been able to mount a challenge. But David Jakes finishes in 2nd place in his Surtees, Brian Redman Surtees, and Ray Radal's going to finish in 3rd. Great drive from both
There
of
he
these
comes.
gentlemen. Jason Whitehead coming around now to finish in 4th place. Jackie Stewart's Tyrrell. Great result for him. And Bruno Chacon sticking with it. Driving Sever's Tyrrell. Heading for Clearways now. Great result for Bruno. A little bit squirrely as he enters Clearways, but he's coming up for the line now. Good job, sir. Dave Miller is 6th in the garage. Prusa is 7th. And it appears that Pascal will still finish 8th in spite of the fact that the car is still running, but the lap count is probably the reason why. And here comes Pascal. And Pascal, thank you so much for riding with us. I know it's difficult to talk and drive at the same time, but we had a lot of great pictures and your insights were very helpful. We appreciate that.
You're welcome. I mean, I had a lot of time to. Hey. A lot of time to look at what happened on track because for most part of the race, the car was just, I think that's a 50-degree angle. My steering wheel is tilted to the left. Something like that.
That's a good practice for next year.
Oh my god.
When you're racing the USAC, because steering wheel will be offset also back then. By then.
All right,
yeah.
so that was the ISO fun race for this evening, the 71 Race of Champions. Definitely a lot of action early on. Got a bit quiet towards the end, but fantastic drive from Thiago Canola. I'm not at all pleased with how prescient my comments were, where I said, Grant is the kind of guy who usually either wins or crashes, and unfortunately, well, it wasn't a crash per se, but
No, it wasn't his fault.
it was an engine that let go. Okay, so it's something, a calamity befell him. So it's not necessarily the same thing, but still, it was. It's unfortunate to put in that much effort and dominate that much and have him come up short. But really interesting race. Lots of fun pictures from the back of the pack where we saw a lot of overtaking and some interesting bottlenecks. But yeah, overall, I'd say it was pretty fun. I hope everybody enjoyed at home. Any closing thoughts before we end tonight's broadcast, gentlemen?
No, it was a very fun broadcast to open this channel. I'm very happy that we are here. People seem to have enjoyed the race in the mod from the comments in the forum. I hope the viewers of the broadcast also did. And we'll see you the next one around.
Pascal, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, just one. If you ever decide to try the Turbine car, you have to know what you're in for.
Fair enough.
I mean,
Don't say
fun,
you were
it's
not
fun.
warned.
Yeah, we
No,
can't.
I knew exactly what I was in for. I mean, I drove the thing last year, or 2 years. I don't know when. Last year, when the 71 championship was, I practiced together with Juha at Monza in Zandvoort, and I know what the thing. I knew what the thing was like. I'm just saying to anyone who might want to try the thing, just know it's not. It's unusual. I'll say the least.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much to both of you for your help with broadcasting. One more time, let's show everybody what's coming up in the 2020 season. We have USAC Championship Cars 1974, which is something we've all been looking forward to. We also have, sorry, 1 second. 1991 Formula One, which will be a really fantastic race or series of races, 16 rounds, I believe. And then we have the very much looked forward to 1997 Super Touring Series. So that's a look at what's coming up. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank Alberto Ibañez for his expert color commentary, and Pascal for sticking with us. This is Jason White saying so long from Brands Hatch, and thank you very much for watching our debut ISO broadcast. We'll see you later.